What's up, everybody? This is Mike with the BDA Podcast. We have a very special guest today. We have David Norec, who is the author of a child's book, The Adventures of EXO Inside, right? So, hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
David, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to ask the first question that I don't know if you get asked this a lot, but I'm going to put it out there because we talked a little bit, so I have a hint. Okay, I have an idea. But I've noticed through the book, right, the color scheme and what the way you're repping.
I think I know where this is going.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're an Astros fan.
I'm a huge Astros fan.
So I had to get it out there. I noticed it. I'm not going to lie. As soon as I read the book, I mean, you know, the Adventure has the star and the jersey.
That's right.
But I noticed in all the promo stuff that you had, you know, it was always, and it looked just the hats, the exercise and EXO Inside, hashtag EXO, right? The
well,
branding.
Thanks, man. I'm glad somebody noticed.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I chose all that.
I love it. I know that feeling, man, because, you know, when you have something like your team like that, and you're doing something, you kind of rep that. Yeah. I do the same thing. I don't want to put down any of the kids of the schools and everything, but I went to Memorial, right? Oh. So, you know, I'm a Mustang, and I don't have a lot of
Bulldog here.
Yeah, well, I'm a Mustang, right? So, but I don't have a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I'm not an alumnus of many schools, right? So the very few I have. So in my business, I made sure I use Colombian blue, right? And all of it, just a little chat. Doesn't mean I'm more biased or whatever. So I feel you, man. You got to rep the Astros. And I'm a big Astros fan too, man.
I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm biased.
Yeah.
I love the colors I like to use.
So thank you for coming, man. I appreciate it. Really want to talk about the book. So let's just get into it, man. So, you know, The Adventures of EXO Inside, you've won a couple awards for the book, right? I want to get into that. But first, man, tell me a little about the motivation, right? Like kind of the motivation for the book. Yeah. How that came about.
So I lost a brother to diabetes in 2013. The very following year, 2014, I lost a sister to diabetes. Diabetes is something that's just been, you know, a terror on my family.
Yeah, man.
I have an older sister who has gone legally blind. She's had a partial foot amputation because of diabetes. And I've just seen what diabetes does to the human body. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. And so a few months after my sister passed away in 2014, I was just driving home and I was inspired to write a children's book called The Adventures of EXO Inside, which is a play on the word exercise. Yeah. EXO Inside live in a town of City, like obesity, where the mayor is Diabetes. Yeah. And Mayor Diabetes wants the entire town to be unhealthy. And in this book, she sends Chip and his dog Nacho to steal everyone's healthy snacks. And Chip and Nacho represent potato chips. When I wrote this book, I want every book to represent, at least the villain to represent something bad or unhealthy. Right. And then, so that was the case here. And so as EXO Inside try to stop Chip and Nacho from stealing everyone's snacks throughout this book, there are 11 different exercises that kids have to do. So they get an exercise workout from reading the book. So
this is awesome. So that's what makes the book the interactive part of the book, right? Yes. So now as the kids are reading the story, they go through, and then there's a spot for them or a part for them where they participate. With EXO or through exercise, right? So, how did you come about? Like, how did you think of, like, you know, when you first started? Did you know you wanted the book to be interactive, or is this something that came along as you were kind of developing the story, or how did that come about?
Yeah, no. As soon as I got the idea, I knew this is what it was going to be, and I thought about, you know, when kids like to watch like Dora the Explorer, where part of the cartoon is Dora asks the kids, you know, in her backpack, which one should I choose? So it's somewhat interactive. Yeah. But there had never been something like this, and where kids have to actually get up, move around, exercise, and they learn about healthy eating. So that was I always wanted that to be at the center of this book and the upcoming books that are going to come up.
Hey, so let me talk about the process. So, I mean, there's probably some people out there who want to write a children's book, even just write a book, right? So let's start kind of in the beginning, right? So you have the idea, right, with the characters and all. Had you ever written a book before? Do you have any experience with, you know, the process or anything like that?
I had written a book before, and I always thought if I'm going to write a book, it's going to be, you know, teen, young adult, that kind of a book. But I never thought that I would write a children's book. So this was all new to me. It took me about 6 months to write this book, and you know, people might ask, well, it's, you know, there aren't a lot of words. It's a children's book. It's only 32 pages long. Right. Why that long? I was an English teacher, and so it's a writing process. And so I would write something, sleep on it. I would wake up the following day and I'm like, why did I write that?
Right.
You know, so there was a lot of editing, revising. Took me about 6 months to actually write it. And my illustrator, his name is Edgardo Gonzalez. He's also locally from McAllen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talented enough to make these wonderful illustrations, so
Yeah.
I found him, and it took him about a year and a half to do the illustrations. Only because this was the first children's book that he had ever illustrated, so it took him a while.
Yeah.
So the entire process took about 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next, was like the illustration part.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, how difficult was that? And you just said, so it took about a year and a half.
Took about a year and a
he was
half
able to do that.
And I wanted to find somebody locally because I wanted, kind of like you and me, to meet in person,
Right.
and to bounce back ideas, and he would sketch out a drawing, he would show it to me, and if I gave him the thumbs up, then he would add color to it. If I didn't like it, then he'd go back, make some revisions and stuff like that.
So all in all, it took about 2 years with the story, the illustrations, and then how that publishing process looks. So someone's looking, you know, once they get their book,
Yeah.
if they're fortunate enough to have the storyline work, right? And then they have the illustrations, and now you have the whole idea, you have this package, right? So what was the next step after that?
Well, the good thing is nowadays self-publishing is really big, and this book is self-published. Trying to go the traditional route, it's awesome if you can do it, but at the same time, it takes a lot of work. You have to get in front of the right people. Before you even get to a publisher, you need to get an agent, and that's a process in itself.
Yeah.
Once you get an agent, then that agent goes and gets a publisher for you, and then it gets printed. But anybody can self-publish. I was a 2018 Innovation Grant Award winner from the McAllen Chamber of Commerce.
Awesome.
And I used that seed money to actually print out my first copies of books. And so it's really not that difficult of a process to do that. And really anybody can do it. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you get it published, and now it's a distribution, right? The tour for the book, and you're promoting the book. What did you find the hardest, or the biggest challenge you had when you went into getting the book out, or trying, once you have that product, right, it arrives in the box, here's the book, right? So what did that look like after that?
Well, you have to prove to yourself that you have a good product.
Yeah.
And at first, I didn't have too many, takers as far as schools, libraries, whatever, to get me in to do presentations. But once I got in, they looked at it and they said, whoa, this is completely different than anything we've ever seen. Yeah. Being a former teacher, when we would bring in authors, all of the time, 100% of the time, the author would sit down, the kids would sit down, they would read, they'd show them a page in the book, With this book, the kids are standing up, they're moving around, they're doing exercises, they're jumping around, they're having fun. And in fact, a lot of the presentations I actually do during PE class because they involve exercising.
Right.
And so when school sees this, they're like, wait a minute, we've never seen anything like this.
Right.
But the hardest part was getting in initially, and then kind of like any good business, word of mouth. And I started getting booked for numerous events. Yeah,
that's awesome. I remember as a kid, they have authors come in, and we go to the library, and I was always the ones that really, I had like ADD as a kid. I was bounced off the walls, So for me, if I had an interactive book like that, I'd probably go back to class just like a step down, right? A little lower down. But I remember having a lot of fun. They'd come in, and, if it was horses, trampoline, we'd, like you'd pound your feet in the ground or something like that. So that's awesome, man. That's great. So I went through the book. I know you have on YouTube, there's a video you have where you have, it's Coach Candace, right?
Coach Candace.
What was her last name?
Candace Fox.
Okay. And so she's going through and she's helping the kids run through those exercises.
Yeah.
When you put this program together, right? So you look at the exercise, there's a good warm up, there's some exercise in the middle, and as a training coach, right? I look at it, it's a full body workout, right? So you look at upper, lower, the whole thing, if you break it down, right? In that sense. So you have her putting them through the warm up, some exercises, and then the end. How did you decide which exercises to do, or how to come? So you really think about that, because the story, as you're going through the story, you have to incorporate this exercise. Yeah. So I guess the question I have was, the exercise come first, then the story, or is the story into the exercise?
That's a great question. I used to be a tennis coach, so I knew a little bit about exercising and stuff like that, but I had to do a lot of research. And to answer that question, the story came first. Okay. I had a whole, list of exercises for kids that I would look at, but I would see, okay, how is this going to be incorporated into the story? Yeah. So I would do the story first and try to find an exercise that would fit along with what's going on into the story. Yeah, because it's tricky. Like, as I watched it, as you read it, right? You read it to me in the video. I was thinking that whole time, I said, man, I wonder how that went, because the exercises are in there, and I'm thinking, man,
for me, that would be a challenge, like to organize the story around the exercise or the exercise around the story. So that's awesome. So you put the story out first.
Yeah.
You decide with the background you have from coaching, right? Some of the movements, whatever. You're able to get those exercises done.
Yeah.
I think Coach Candace does a great job, man, in demoing the exercise, right? Like with the kids, and it's more interactive. Is that what it looks like when you go into the schools or into? Or do you have a coach with you, or are you going in? Are you doing the exercise?
I'm the one who does all the exercises, and that is what it looks like. And it was just a big blessing because, this book really came out at the start of COVID season.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of school presentations that were canceled because of COVID.
Yeah.
One school shut down, but that allowed me to connect with a trainer like Candace, and we worked together into making this YouTube video. And so when I go to schools, that's pretty much what it looks like. I try to model the exercises exactly from what she does, and then just do them in the presentations.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to roll back a little bit. So we're talking about the inspiration for the book, and I know you're saying your brother and your sister had passed away, and I'm sorry, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So was this COVID related? Was it before? It was complications through just diabetes alone, right? Is that
pretty much? Yeah,
okay.
This was pre-COVID, and you know what? I'll never forget. I remember my sister had a doctor's visit the year she passed away. It was during the summer. She passed away in December, but during the summer she went to see the doctor, and he told her, if you don't change the way you eat, you're gonna die. That's pretty much what he told her. And she came back, and for about a good month, she made some great changes. And I'll never forget the day I started seeing her revert back to eating, back to old bad habits. And I'll never forget the day I looked at her and I said, "What are you doing? The doctor told you if you don't make these changes, this is what's gonna happen." And I'll never forget, man. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, and she told me, "David, I just can't do this anymore." And to see somebody that you love that give up, because that's essentially what she did. And it was only a couple months after, she reverted back to those old habits that she passed away. And man, I don't want to see anybody go through that. Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of the bad things about diabetes and other obesity related illnesses.
Yeah. In the RGV, diabetes is genetic, right? So we're going to be pre-exposed just genetically. If your father had it, then if there's three of y'all, the chances are 1 out of 3 are going to get it, right? Yeah. And then the lifestyle here in the RGV has a lot to do with it, right? Yeah. So we do have, these aren't the best records to hold, right? But I mean, the national average in the RGV is a lot higher than the nation, almost 30%, right? Yeah. More when it comes to diabetes. And again, when I think about this, I really think about the learned behaviors when it comes to eating, right? As a kid. So I was going to ask you, man, going back to your childhood, right? What environmental factors you played in, right? When it came to diet, maybe with family, and you're originally from the Valley, right? McAllen, right? Is there anything you can pinpoint that you would think back in the time as coming up?
Yeah, the one thing I could look back and think about was, growing up poor in the poor side of town in McAllen. I remember the one thing my mom always stressed was you have to finish everything on your plate. Yeah. And I think a lot of people from the Valley, they've heard that before. You got to finish everything on your plate. And so it didn't matter what we ate. And I'm not saying we ate that bad. Looking back, yeah, we were poor, but we ate good. I mean, there were home cooked meals, but Mexican food is not necessarily the healthiest thing to be eating.
It's delicious. But it is not nutritious. It is delicious, yeah.
And then when you're being told, finish everything on your plate, that was just how we grew up. And that's the one thing I can look back. And like you said, it's a culture that we live in. That's where we're at. For the 5th year in a row, according to Wallet Hub, the McAllen is the city they like to use, but the area of McAllen, Mission, and Edinburgh for the 5th year in a row is considered the fattest city in the United States of America. Wow. And this we didn't get this overnight. This is, like you said, it's a culture growing up, these habits, these bad habits that are, we're paying the price now.
I feel, when I grew up, man, we didn't have very much, and, just to eat was Definitely. There's 3 boys, right? We were all boys. So, my mom would put down food and it was like a race. Like if you didn't eat, you didn't eat, because that was it. Like that was that time we would eat food. But I think you're right, man. I think some of the environmental stuff is like, hey, make sure you finish your plate. Make sure you do this and that. I found as I started getting older, so, we go into this, as a child, that stage where I'm eating there at home. And then I started getting a little bit older, and I had maybe more decisions. I would not eat or try to make my own food, right? In that sense. Did you ever find as you came to age and getting older and, moving out of the home, how much of that practice did you carry into your household when it came to finishing the plate, shopping for the groceries and stuff? How much did that play for you?
Yeah, I mean, it played heavily. It's like, if I'm going to make something, better be eaten completely. And that goes to healthy and unhealthy food. Whatever it is, you don't leave leftovers, because there's some people who genuinely are hungry, and no, you finish everything, whether it's today or the next day, but everything has to be finished. And yeah, that's probably not the best advice to give, especially when you're eating unhealthy.
The other thing too I found, man, was, because we weren't well off, right? It was on the poor side. It was, it was tough coming up. And I found as I got older, man, and then I was making a little money, I had access to like fast food or something that we never really had before, right? Because it was more of a luxury to have a cheeseburger or to go to McDonald's or Whataburger at the time. And I was like, oh, this is so great. Yep. So when I got older, I noticed that, I could afford to get into different types of food. So I would go and buy that burger or make poor decisions. And then as I get older and older, like I had more. I didn't know what a cheese stick was. I was in college, man. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So we never went to a restaurant, and I had no idea what that was. I remember going, like being 19 years old at Applebee's, sitting there with some friends. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they're like, it's cheese. And I remember getting into it. I was like, oh man, this is so good. It was like the most delicious thing. But it was like, now that I could have abundance, now that I could afford to have whatever I wanted, I found myself indulging. Like on these foods and in this huge abundant way, just because it was poor. And I feel, I'm not sure with the poverty lines and, McAllen, and when it comes to healthy eating and things like that. But, for me, I could say that was a factor. My father's diabetic, right? Oh, wow. So it just means that, one of us, of my brothers, the 3 of us, it's going to happen. And, as we were moving along, and I noticed that when looking back now, hey man, when I was at that age, I could say it was definitely abundant and indulging because I could afford that now. And it was harder to make the better decision. And it was really just the way I was brought up and grown up. My parents didn't know any better, right? I think our parents probably didn't know any better. And it was just like, hey, let's eat and make sure you finish your food and get it all down. And that's outside of emotional eating. Right? People who may have like emotional eating issues, or people who have like self-esteem issues, right? And those are more environmental factors that I think contribute to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say coming up, did you guys experience, did you say you experienced that in your family at all? Maybe some of that, or even coming older?
No, you talking about it, my sister who passed away, she didn't eat Pizza Hut till she was a senior in high school. Yeah. But now, like you said, it's so easy. It's just to drive down the road and get some fast food, and it's not always the healthiest. And now a friend of mine and I were talking about it. We're like, okay, if you want a good taco, you're not going to go to Taco Bell, right?
It's horrible.
Hey, it's okay, it's good, it's all right, but
it's okay, it's not great.
It's like if you want a good burger, you don't immediately think of McDonald's, right? Because it's not, but psychologically. But if I want the taste of a McDonald's burger, I'm going to go. If I want the taste of a Taco Bell taco, that's where I'm going to go. Right. And it's not that expensive. And man, I look at like the McDonald's app, and now it's like you buy one, you get one free. It's, it's so much inviting. Easier than going home and prepping and then cooking. And so, I definitely experienced that. Yeah,
I really feel like the culture in the Valley is almost like a prison sometimes for a lot of folks, and it just kind of trickles down, and you get, you have your outliers, right? So you have some people who change that lifestyle, make it better for their families, and they go on. I remember watching an episode of like 2020. This is really crazy, man. But they had like 4 participants come in, and they're eating soup. So they would just say, hey, you're going to go in, just, eat this soup and tell us your opinion of this soup. So the controls that they had 4 of these bowls, and then 2 of them had a hose underneath that kept refilling the bowl. So people would go and they would eat the soup, right? And it was the they were supposed to give their opinion of the soup, right? But what it was actually an experiment in indulging. And so those who eat until they're full, and those who are brought up kind of like we were, where you have to finish your plate and you have to finish that food. So you had people who were eating who would finish their bowl, or people that the bowl wasn't refilling. Maybe they got halfway, but they were full and they would stop. Oh, I'm full, I'm done. But then you had other people who the bowl kept refilling and they kept eating and eating and eating and eating, and the bowl never went down, and they were just literally like just consuming and stuffing themselves. And I thought that was a great experiment, and it really talks about, and it really preaches kind of what we're talking about, that culture that we're brought up in of like, hey, finish that food and make sure that we're eating all the stuff. And, it gets,
Yeah, and especially, crazy. If somebody invites you over to eat, or you're at a restaurant, you want to finish everything, because it's, you're almost like you're insulting them if you don't finish everything. And so even if you want to or not, you're going to keep eating.
I think that the other challenge too, man, was like, for me, I would go into a restaurant now, different now, but I would always try to finish my food, man. And it was hard. And I would sit there, I'm like, okay, I'm full. Let me take a break. Like, take a break from eating? No, you should be done, right? I should be done. So now, like, I go in there and say, I'm just cutting stuff in half. I eat it, and then I take the rest to go. Like that full feeling to recognize it and just like, okay, that's fine. Like, I didn't finish this plate, but I'm full. And I think I'm waiting for my mom's chancla to come out, right? And like put me in the back of the head to finish that plate.
And I used to work with somebody who I didn't know this existed. It's called snasiation, where when your body is physically full, you start to sneeze a lot. And I'm like, man, I wish I had that kind of alarm system, or like start sneezing. Okay, I'm done.
Just to tell you, like, I'm not eating anymore. That's it. Yeah, son of a gun. Well, anywho, it's really crazy. When we talk about the valley and like with obesity too, and working out and all those things, what's it look like? I mean, so are you diabetic also?
I'm a diabetic.
Okay.
And a few years ago, I went to see a doctor, and they told me, look, you're pre-diabetic, but if you change the way you eat, if you start exercising more, you won't, be diabetic. Did I listen? No. And so, it took a couple of years, and then, I got diagnosed with diabetes, but that was on me, I think.
Right. So what lifestyle changes did you have to make, man? Once that happens, there's the lifestyle changes. Like you're saying, like your sister immediately had changed her diet. There's a lot of good result. Yeah. What was your lifestyle before that? Mm-hmm. And what's it now? Right. So
the biggest thing for me was soft drinks or sugary drinks.
Okay.
That, and I don't know how I grew up, and my sister, I think of her when I think of this, but it seems like after every meal, I had to have something sweet.
Welcome to the club, David. Yes.
So it's not just me.
It's not just you, sir. We have jackets. Welcome to the club.
And it was, it was like, and whether I was hungry or not, no, but I needed something sweet. And I wasn't done until I had something sweet. Whether it was ice cream or candy, whatever it was, but I needed something sweet. But yeah, so that, it's drinking water, even trying to stay away from like Coke Zero or the zero drinks, whatever, just drinking a lot of water. And I used to play a lot of tennis growing up, but that stopped about 10 years ago. And so now I have to find some other form of exercise.
I know a place you can go.
Yeah?
Yeah. I know a place you can go.
I've seen that place produce a lot of awesome results.
Yeah, you should come. We should probably put together like a diabetic, like a workout or something.
Amazing.
That would actually be good. But yeah, there's a place. So the sugary drinks. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Okay. Yeah. So was that the biggest challenge for you? Was it eliminating these sodas and kind of staying on the water side or the hydration side of things? Because
a lot of times, you're eating something and you want something with taste to drink.
Yeah.
But
what I found is there's a lot of substitutes for that, man. I don't know if you've seen like nowadays, not so much, maybe 15 years ago. Yeah. But nowadays, you can get that same hydration, that water intake, 0 calories, with a squirt of like a flavor that flavors your water. Yeah. And if you go down an aisle like a H-E-B or Walmart or, there's sections. Yeah. Dedicated to the stuff where there's like Crystal Light, which is 0 calorie, 0 calorie. Now there's other things like vitamin water, which if you ever flip it over, look at vitamin water. There's sugar. It's not even water, just because it has calories, right? Water has no calories, right? So water has no calories, and this drink is literally just a soda. This is vitamin water. Folks will grab that because it's flavored, but it's loaded. Like just loaded with sugars and all. It's literally an uncarbonated soda. Wow. You put it side by side. But you look at the rest of that aisle, and you'll see the Crystal Light, these Mio drops, and these things are 0 calories. That can actually really help people get the hydration they need, because you need to drink so many ounces of, I don't know the exact number, you have so many ounces a day of water. And sometimes that's hard. And like you're saying, like, man, after that snack, you want something sweet. Man, there's a big variety now where you can go through and kind of pop through. I can put this in. And then I think it comes down to like aspartame, right? Oh, the sweetener, and everyone freaks out, right? Like all of a sudden, but you can really have something sweet to crave that. It'll curve that sweetness, adding this like flavor to your drink, and it's not too bad, and it keeps you away from indulging or trying to jump into like chocolates or something like that. So you coach tennis, right? And you said you're still playing now. Are you actively playing now?
No, I don't play anymore, but I just I like to go walk and do stuff like that.
So what's the next steps for the books? I know you said this is your second book?
First book.
Okay, first book.
The second book will be called The Adventures of Arrow, which is a little girl, and her cat, Bix. So you put Arrow and Bix together, you get aerobics.
Oh, dude, nice.
And so it's still going to take place in OB City.
Okay.
Different villain. This one was Chip and Nacho. The next one, the villain in that book will be Candy Cane and Marsha Mello. So it's still playing on words.
Dude.
And so that'll be the next one. And then I'm going to alternate EXO Inside, Arrow and Bix, EXO, until the last book. Right now it's looking like 7 books, where EXO Inside will finally meet and team up with Arrow and Bix to finally defeat Mayor Diane Beatties.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And when will that be coming out? What's that look like?
COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing, but what I'm looking at is starting next November, 2023, releasing a new book every November to coincide with 2 things. Number one, my sister's birthday, who passed away, and also November is Diabetes Awareness Month. So it works perfectly with that.
Nice. Yeah, man. Very cool. The during COVID, man, I know I worked in the hospital during COVID, and it was like at the absolute peak. And, diabetes played a big part in the comorbidities, dude, for patients that were coming in with COVID, right? And that, I think, was probably the biggest comorbidity that we would have with our patients, right? As on that side. How scary is that? Let's really think in the valley, knowing, right, that diabetes is as runs as wild as it does, and then knowing that COVID was here too, right? Yeah. I think that was like kind of a scarier part, but I really noticed that all these patients are coming in, and it was diabetic, amputations, right? So we have a lot of people coming in losing, and a lot of this stuff can be controlled with just diet alone. It can, right? A lot of diet and exercise. So your workout routine now, you said I
like to walk.
Okay. Yeah. So that's your base of exercise, and your diet has changed from before to this point now, right? That's so what would you think was the big difference in the diet from before till now?
Really, it's the drinks. Okay. Yeah. I don't eat too much bread, hardly any of that. But for me, it really was. And once I decided to give up, like those sugary drinks, man, within a couple weeks, the difference I felt in my body was just night and day.
Man, how about have you tried any fad diets or anything like that?
Not really. Yeah. I think the diabetic diet is, good enough, stay away from certain things. Yeah. I think that's good enough. And of course, getting exercise. So, yeah.
Awesome. Hey, so the shirt Fitlit.
Fitlit.
Yeah. What's that?
So that is fitness and literacy, or fitness literacy. And the Adventures of EXO Inside, the Adventures of Arrow and Bix, they're all going to fall under this umbrella of Fitlit. And it combines, again, fitness and literature. And one of the most awesome things that we're doing is we've had the pages of this book on big metal signs. And we've had 2 parks where we've put these signs along like a trail in a park. And so families, they walk and they read the story. And when it gets to the point of doing an exercise, there's a QR code, and you can scan it with your phone, and it'll lead them to the exercise, and you do the exercise right there.
That's awesome.
So it looks like in November I'm going to be working closely with the city of Mission. In fact, I just came back. They just opened up a new fitness park on the corner of Inspiration and 2 Mile. Okay. And it is an awesome thing, and we're looking for the month of November to coincide with Diabetes Awareness Month to put one of these, what I call a fit lit park, where we'll put the pages of my book along the walking trail in that park to, to have families come read and exercise.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's a great way for a lot of these parks too that are popping up now. It's really awesome that there's more places now. We talk about how obesity in the valley is really bad, but there's so many more parks and running trails and biking trails and hiking trails, and even town lake, you can go paddling. There's a whole lot more activities now, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's really just having the sense of adventure, right, in yourself to go out there and try them. Mm-hmm. But I think it's great the city's growing like that to have more options. A lot of my friends would be like, hey man, like I have to go to Austin to hit this trail, or I have to go to San Antonio, right? But hey, there's so much here.
There is.
Man, it's just a matter of finding them and going out there. I have a question about some of the characters, man. So are any of the characters EXO maybe someone in real life, or is Arrow maybe a character someone in real life? The dog, maybe?
I have a dog. We have a dog, little Jack Russell Terrier. His name is Orbit because, of course, Astros fans,
you have to.
So Orbit, so Sai is a real character. Arrow is a real character. That's going to be based off my daughter. And so yeah. And I guess you could say OB City, since I live in the fattest city in the United States of America. I mean, might as well be based on
McAllen restaurants.
Yeah. But yeah. So, and there are little things here and there. I had a younger sister who passed away in 2017, and so there's a place in the book called Lisa's Bakery, which is named after her. I had a father figure who passed away in 2014 as well. And in the beginning, where EXO Inside stretched their arms and legs, it's Crump Memorial Park, and that was just a tribute to my father figure. I would say Gary Crump.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah. So a lot of the stuff is, and then Freddie's Party House. I have a little nephew who's just seventh. He just started seventh grade. Seventh grade, sixth grade, seventh grade. And so that's named after him, Freddie's Party House.
Nice.
But yeah, so some of the characters are and will be.
Yeah. So for the future books too, you're gonna have them in there.
Yeah.
Man, there might be a nice place for a gym. In this Arrow, a BDA place,
of
maybe.
Course, yeah,
David, I don't know.
Why not?
It doesn't have to be the BDA, but
But why not? Hey, you know what? I love supporting local.
Yeah.
And the first prints of this book, I went locally. I wanted local, even though I could have saved some money going somewhere else. I wanted it here, and I will always support local. So why not have BDA gym in the story? Why not? Let's do it.
Just run by. It would be like run by, like do the adventure. Hey, so I want to ask, after writing the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think what's the best parts now about being an author, man? What do you feel?
Yeah, going out and sharing this message with kids of all ages, really, kids from 4 to 40 or whatever. Just sharing the message, sharing my story, because I think it resonates with a lot of people, especially down here in the valley. We were in a huge crowd of thousands of people, and I asked, how many of you know somebody or are directly affected by diabetes or obesity? Man,
yeah,
you have,
forget it. Yeah.
About maybe 80% of the crowd raising their hands.
Yeah.
So it's very relevant, and just to be able to go out there and share this message, it's really, really important for me. That's the most awesome thing.
I wanted to ask again. Is this FitLit? Is this your brand?
This is my brand.
Okay,
FitLit,
awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how can people, if they want to book you, right? If the schools want to book you, someone wants to book you, what's that? Where can we find you?
DavidNorec.com, DavidNorec.com. You can purchase a book there. You can reach out and book a school visit. I did reach out to every school district here in the Valley already, and for the month of November, and I want to do this every month of November to coincide with Diabetes Awareness Month. I will offer free school visits to anybody who wants me to go to their school or library or conference, whatever, to speak, to do the book presentation during the month of November.
Awesome, man. Yeah. That's good, dude. I want to say thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Congratulations with the book. I think it's great. This is a great way with our kids locally, right, to get them active, to make them more aware.
Yeah.
And I think with the culture changing, because there is a change. I know we were talking, it was kind of gloomy. We were talking about, the Valley. But, there is a change coming. I think there's a wave, and people are making better decisions. Yeah. And the places that are popping up to the Valley are a little more readily available for kids to go and exercise or to have that lifestyle, right? Like a healthier lifestyle. So, man, kudos to you, man, for, you know, putting that together. And good luck with the tour, man.
Thank
and
you.
know,
Appreciate it.
just as if everybody wants to get a hold of you again, it's going to be David Norec.
DavidNorec.com.
Awesome, man. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Can't wait, man, for the next book.
All right.
All right,
awesome.
brother.